What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today I want to take a look at 3 free agents the New York Jets should still consider signing. We are just about a week out from the NFL draft, and now good news. Any free agent signing you make after the NFL draft does not impact the comp pick formula for next year's draft. The Jets are expected to get a 4th and 7th round pick as compensatory picks in the 2026 draft. So anyone that they sign at this point will not have an impact on that. I want to start with someone that's kind of an obvious connection, but it makes a lot of sense, and that's Darius Smith, an edge rusher who played with Aaron Glenn in Detroit in the second half of last year. He finished the 2024 season with 67 pressures and 9 sacks split between 2 teams. You might remember him from the Green Bay Packers a few years ago. He's kind of bounced around the league since leaving Green Bay, but has remained productive in Minnesota and Cleveland and Detroit. And, it's someone that Aaron Glenn coached. So I would imagine that this is a player that Glenn likes, and you're going to eventually see some turnover on the roster and start getting some Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn guys in here. And Darius Smith, I think, could fit that bill. 67 pressures is nothing to scoff at. 9 sacks is still pretty productive, again, bouncing back and forth between the 2 teams. I think this is a no-brainer if you're looking for some pass rush juice and some insurance for Jermaine Johnson. Continuing down the edge rusher path, a former teammate of Darius Smith and someone who shares the same last name, Preston Smith, I think also makes sense. He played with both Green Bay and Pittsburgh last year. Not as productive as a pass rusher as Darius Smith, 4.5 sacks, 18 pressures on just 469 reps. The year prior, better, 52 pressures on 838 reps. But he is someone who's a bit of a bigger edge, 6'5", 265. So he's not like a Will McDonald type who's just, kind of small, skinny, and fast. He has gotten better against the run in the late stages of his career. Honestly, similar age to Darius Smith. I think it depends on what you're looking for. Darius is more of your pass rushing edge, and Preston at this point is probably better against the run than he is a pass rusher. And that was something that the Jets struggled with a year ago. They were not very good against the run, and they really missed Jermaine Johnson. But if you're looking for, again, depth at the position, a veteran who can be serviceable for you as a rusher and decent as a run stopper, I think this name makes a ton of sense. Last one for me is Julian Blackman, safety. Spent a lot of time with the Colts. That's who he was drafted with. He's still young. He doesn't turn 27 until August, so a little different. It's not like he's 32, still looking for a job. This is his first contract that he's looking to get. Now, he's played both free safety and strong safety, and he's been a starter for essentially his entire career. 7 interceptions over the last 2 years, has allowed just 2 touchdowns and 617 yards over that span. I question, my note is Malachi Moore insurance, just because I don't know if they're going to have him start right out of the gate. And Julian Blackman has spent time at both strong and free safety. Last year was more free safety. The year prior, more strong safety. So he's versatile. But I personally would just feel a lot more comfortable with a veteran back there. I don't really trust Tony Adams as a starter. I think he's very redundant to Andre Cisco also. But Blackman, I think you could talk yourself into a Blackman and Andre Cisco duo, assuming that you're trying to move along Malachi Moore. And it's a weak position. I don't think he's going to cost you all that much at this point, right? Still kicking around in May in free agency. It's not like he's going to cash in on this massive contract. A 1-year flyer on a guy who's just 27 years old, I think is good business, especially at a position of need. Now, you may have noticed I didn't include any wide receivers, and that was kind of intentional. I don't love the free agent wide receivers that are left. If the New York Jets were looking to add at the wide receiver spot, I think trade makes more sense, and maybe we save that for another video, and I can give you some, realistic trade targets that the Jets could add and not break the bank on. But for me, I don't know if adding Keenan Allen is really pushing the needle forward. He plays pretty much exclusively in the slot. Would he take away from Garrett Wilson getting to play in the slot? Maybe. Amari Cooper looked completely done last year. I don't think he really has all that much left in the tank. He goes to Buffalo last year, and people are saying, oh, that was a really good value get. And he did absolutely nothing for them, still kicking around on the market. And there's some other lesser names, like I think Nelson Aguilar is still kicking around, for example. But for me, if I'm looking for just 3 names who are semi-realistic, I'm looking on the defensive side of the ball, number 1. I think edge makes a lot of sense, Darius Smith or Preston Smith. And if they want to add something on the back end of the defense, I think Julian Blackman is the best name to do that. So I want to hear from you guys. How do you feel about these three? Are there other names that I left off that you think the Jets should consider adding? Let me know. I'm Matt O'Leary. I'll catch you next time.